Instead of going to his right, he came to the left, which made him come across in front of the daiquiri shop with all of the light shining down on him. So I did get a good look at him coming that way. Where did he head after passing in front of your daiquiri shop? He passed that area, made a right turn next to those poles to the outside near Claiborne, Louisiana, and with a little jogging, went on down Louisiana Avenue toward the river. Were you able to observe first how he looked, both clothing-wise as well as description, height, weight, etc.? By looking at him, he was sort of bronze-colored, brown skin, brown, almost light brown, low haircut with seemingly a full beard, but not long, just full, and should be about 5 feet 10 inches, because this portion that I was looking at and the clothing he had on, which looked like a jumpsuit or something, I gave him between 200 and 230 pounds because I couldn't discern whether that was his stomach or whatever. Did the police respond at some point? Yes, they did. Did you talk to them that night? Yes. When the police arrived, I was on the phone with 911. And when the police arrived, I hung the phone up and we discussed what was happening. Did you inform them that you had surveillance camera equipment that may have recorded portions of what had occurred outside of your establishment that evening? Well, they inquired if the camera system was active, and I said surely. And they said at that time, "Can I see it?" And I said, "Yes, you can." And then I immediately took them up to see the footage. And did you give them access to the equipment so they can make any recordings needed? I gave them access to the equipment, and they did record everything they thought they needed. The next day, did you meet with a detective to give a statement and relay what you had seen the night before? Yes, I did. Is that essentially what you more or less described for us here this morning? Yes, it was. He came back. I don't know if it was expected or unexpected. I can't remember now, but he came back. I was over next door at the restaurant having breakfast. At some point during the course of meeting with him, did he present you with a lineup to see if you could make an identification of the person that you saw running past? Yes, he did. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes as Government's Exhibit 123. While he is approaching, what was the detective's name? Do you remember? No, sir. I'm going to ask you if you recognize this document. Yes, I do. Is that the lineup that the detective showed you the morning after the events that you've described? Yes, it is. During the course of meeting with him and after observing the lineup, were you able to make an identification of anyone from the photographs on that lineup? Yes. Which number did you select? I selected number 5. I would ask you to turn that document over. And do you see anything that you recognize? Yes, my signature. Is there also a date? Yes, May 14th, 2008, 11:17 a.m. Is that in your handwriting? That is my handwriting. In connection with making the selection that you did the detective or anyone else influence you in who you were identifying? No, they did not. Did anyone promise to you anything or coerce you in any way in making the selection? No, sir. Now, in discussing the level of certainty of your selection, how would you describe it when you made the selection, what your level of certainty as to picture number 5 was as the person you saw running past you? I gave it a 95 to 97%. Why that number? Could you explain it? They asked that same question at a particular time, and I told them because I could not see the other side of his face, I could only see the right side of his face. But otherwise, from what you saw, the person depicted in number 5 is the person you saw? Yes, sir. Your Honor, I would introduce and publish Government's Exhibit 123. So ordered. And from this portion, so we're clear as to which one is number 5, which one are we referring to, Mr. Matthews? Center bottom. The center bottom photograph? Yes. Thank you. Was this matter pursued in state court for a period of time? Yes, it was. And did you testify in that case in a trial or trials in that case in state court? Yes, I did. Prior to testifying, was there an event where you were shot a number of times? Yes, sir. Do you recall the date that occurred? I think the paper put it down as October 23rd, but it was actually October 24th. They say the night of October 23rd, but it was after midnight, so it was the 24th, somewhere around 2:30. So the morning of October 24th, and would the year be 2010? 2010, yes. The case was obviously still pending trial. The trial had not occurred in the case that you ultimately testified in by that date. Is that fair? Had not, that is correct. Where were you when you were shot? I was in my home and I was walking toward the foyer to go to my sleeping quarters. I am going to ask you to but take you back a little bit earlier in that evening. Where had you been before you had gotten home? I had been at my location on Diamond Road, and I closed a little after 1, and then with the cleanup, etc., so on, I must have got home about that time, 2:15, something like that. And working and operating the daiquiri shop / barroom establishment, had you been drinking that evening? No, sir. Was it part of your custom and practice when you're managing your establishment that you would have a weapon on you? Yes, sir. Did you have one that evening? I had a Derringer on me that evening. I didn't have my .40 caliber, which I normally carry, because my lady got tired and she wanted to go home, and I didn't want her to go home without a weapon. So I gave her my .40 caliber, and all I had was my Derringer. As you were leaving the Diamond Road location and heading to your residence, did you notice anything while driving? Yes. I noticed a car that I thought I had noticed before, but this time they were driving a little more aggressively. And as I continued from Diamond on Morrison towards I-10 East, the car followed. And as I entered into the interstate, the car pulled up side of me and then got back behind me. And I went on and exited the interstate at Crowder Boulevard. Went to I-10 Service Road, made a right turn going toward my house, and the car was still following me. So instead of going all the way to my street, I just turned the block before. I went to about the 3rd or 4th house on Mayo, and then I stopped, and I got out. When I got out, the guys turned into the driveway of the 2nd house off I-10 Service Road. About that time, I realized I only had my Derringer on me, and I got back in my car and went on home. But when I got home, I went inside, turned off the alarm, set the alarm again. And as we did as kids, you think you're home, you're safe, right? So I sat in my easy chair and started watching the news, which is what I normally do. After sitting down in the chair, at some point, did you hear some noise, commotion, and where were you and what did you do? No, I didn't hear any noise. What I was doing was going back in through my back room. I said, again, I only have my Derringer on me. Let me go back to the back room and get one of my other tools. So, as I was walking, and I made it almost to the foyer, and the door flew open, and I was hit with a shotgun blast and an automatic. Seemed like an automatic weapon fire, not semi-automatic. It sounded like automatic weapon fire. As I tried to fall to the ground, because in combat training, everybody knows you got to get to the ground, get to the low point, and I could not get down. That's how many times I was hit. At some point during this process, did you get a look at any individual that was doing the shooting? When I overcame, I guess it's concussion as we call it. When you're hit a bunch of times, your body sort of do some things to allow the pain and the shock to pass. When I came back, as they say, came back too, there's a gentleman in the door, and he had a little song he was singing, and he said, "I missed your Jazz Wednesday." And I was just sitting there watching him, and he had a shotgun in his hand.